video out of the way and we'll get started. Yeah, Braves got themselves in some more trouble there. Bases loaded and one out, so might not be our night tonight.
I was looking at the Cubs loaded the bases against the Phillies and didn't score.
Yeah, I'm hoping that streak
got to keep them down while they're down.
Yeah, Mets too, yeah. All right, here we go. So, hello, Braves fans. Welcome to another episode of the 9521 Atlanta Baseball Podcast. I'm joined as usual with my battery mate, Mike, and we have another special guest tonight. We're super excited to have Mark Fredrickson on. Mark is the former longtime official scorer for the Atlanta Braves. And Mark, I believe, if I have this right, for 22 seasons. Is that correct?
22 seasons from 86 to 2007.
Awesome. So we are extremely excited.
Perfect years.
Yeah, you couldn't have picked better seasons to be the official scorer for the Atlanta Braves, honestly. Yeah. Super excited to have you here, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you doing this.
My pleasure.
So, I got so many questions, Mark. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. Mike grew up in the 80s. TBS kids watching the Braves. My original heroes were Dale Murphy and Glenn Hubbard and Ken Oberkfell and Bob Horner and Rafael Ramirez and Andres Thomas. I could go on and on. And then, of course, living through the 90s and the great run the Braves went on. And really since then, the Braves have been one of the top franchises in all of baseball. So many questions come to mind. But really the first thing I want to start with, how do you become an official scorer for a Major League Baseball team? How did you come about getting that job?
It's the job itself it used to be all beat writers for the newspapers for years and years and decades. And starting back in the early 70s, they meaning the American National League, we're starting to notice that more and more good vibes, bad vibes between the newspaper writers and the players was happening. Yeah. And if a writer writes something bad about a player, okay, or if a player's being ornery back to him, okay, well, guess who's got the hammer to have the final say? So they kind of picked up on that, and so somewhere in the early 70s, I believe, they came up with, okay, we're getting rid of the current beat writers. A lot of them scorers are former beat writers, but they couldn't have active beat writers. And a lot of the newspapers had put in to kind of start to prevent that. You can't work another job if you were writing for the paper.
Yeah.
So this was back, going way back. Obviously the qualifications, you need to have, good knowledge of the rules. You need to have a working knowledge of, what you're looking at in terms of being able to interpret things such as a fielder's routine effort. That's the definition of an error, is if routine effort or normal effort is needed to make a play and it's not made, then that's an error. So everybody's normal is different from everybody else's normal. So that can make things a little interesting.
Yeah.
So to be able to interpret all that and to have, you got to have an outgoing personality. I mean, it's just, you have to, or the media will walk all over you, because I've seen that happen. And so all that combined, put together, and then you need to be in the right place at the right time, which is something I've, people, how do you do this? How do you get started? Blah, blah, blah. So much of it is just that one lucky break, and then you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So being in the right place at the right time has 95% to do with getting in the door. And then that last 5% is the hardest 5%, because that's when you got to prove yourself to stay there.
Yeah.
So I had been I played high school ball. That was it. So I had a knowledge of the game. And I was terrible. And the worst player on the team is the one that keeps the scorebook. So I started keeping the scorebook going back to my teens. And actually, I was keeping scorebook at home, watching the Braves in the early 70s, and I was planted in front of the TV at age 10, age 11, keeping score.
Yeah.
So always loved doing it. And so was the sports director at a little bitty college radio station, went to Georgia College in Milledgeville. And, they'd never had a sports director before. Well, heck, I was fine to take that job and invent that job because I still lived in Atlanta. I'd go home every weekend, and it got me press credentials.
Oh, nice.
So I could go to any Braves game, Falcons game, Hawks game, or Flames game for free.
Wow.
That works for me.
Yeah.
So you meet people. You get into the press box, you meet people, you make relationships. Yeah. Because after your 4 years of college is gone, you better have made some connection to still be there because you're not there on your press pass from the college anymore.
Right.
So I was able to do that. And way back in the day, believe it or not, before computers, the box scores you would read in the paper were phoned in. They were dictated. So starting about for the AP and UPI wires. So starting about the top or bottom of the eighth inning, you would call in to the desk, the UPI or AP desk, and you'd start dictating the box. It'd be, Royster, 4010, Hubbard, 4111, and go right down the line, doubles, blah, 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 and keep going. And you'd stay on the line with them until the game was over, updating every time somebody did something to change the box score. Change this Hubbard from a 3 to a 4. And a funny story about that was I was doing that for the UPI, the July 4th game in 1985. So I got on the phone with UPI at about 11 o'clock at night because there'd already been 1 or 2 rain delays. And I was on the phone with them until 4 a.m. because that's when the game finally ended.
Yeah.
So that was a wild one. So I was there for that whole game, and I was on the phone for that whole game. So that was a learning experience. And in 95, there's generally 2 scores. There's a lead score and then the second score. And the second score, if you're not good and you're not confident, and when I say good, I'm not saying, right or wrong, error, hit calls, because that's an opinion. That's always an opinion.
Yeah.
But, if your earned runs are wrong, if you interpret a rule wrong, so stuff like that. And you're like I said earlier, you're going to become a target of the media. And they will, that's one thing I learned. I mean, beat writers, broadcasters, they just love to walk all over you.
Sure.
So you better be ready to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
If you intend on sticking around. But if you're not really good, really confident in your abilities, they don't want you and you don't want to be there. So such is the case with the gentleman that was there in 85. It was his only year. So I went up to the Braves PR director because they would nominate you to the league. And then they hire whoever they got nominated. But I don't know if the name Wayne Minshew means anything to you. He used to be a beat writer for the Journal-Constitution for the Braves.
Yep.
And he was the PR director. And at the time, I was only 26. And at the time I went up to him, I was only 25. And I went up to him and I said, I know you're going to be looking for a score because Bob's not going to want to come back next year. And I just wanted to let you know I'd be interested. Because there's not a lot of people. The scores are not hanging off trees, especially back then. Yeah. Because a lot of people were disqualified from being a scorer because you couldn't have another job while you were there. Well, then why would you be there?
Right.
In the first place. So so I could easily get rid of my AP UPI box scores making $10 a day and do this. So he goes, okay, let me look into this. And he gave me a call back in January, February of 86 and said, we'd like you to be a scorer. So that was that. I mean, that was very cool. That was, that was as close as I was ever going to get to being called up to the big leagues.
Right.
That was a thrill of a lifetime getting that call.
I can imagine. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It had to really feel like basically you were getting called up to the big leagues.
Yes, I mean it was, and you know it's weird because some people will appreciate that and realize that more than others, but when you dream baseball, you live baseball, and you know, okay, all right, I gave up making it on talent a long time ago. This is my one and only shot.
Yeah.
And you get that shot.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, and at age 26,
yeah,
that was the youngest official score in the history of baseball.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. It's awesome.
I was still a kid. So this was great. So that's how you get in. And then, you know, you hang around until you tick enough people off, which is what happened because it becomes very political.
Yeah.
About halfway through that, they went from American League, National League, assigning to the commissioner's office.
Right.
And the lady that was doing the American League took over official scores. The lady that was doing the National League, who was a very nice lady, Katie Feeney, who was Chub Feeney, the former president of the National League. It was his daughter.
Gotcha.
And she took over the scheduling part. And so, okay, all of a sudden my person was gone.
Yeah.
And this other person comes in and, you know, so yeah, it took a few years, but you know, there was enough, you know, one hand washes the other and somebody's got to go. And
yeah,
so
it happens.
But it was a good time. It was a good time to go because it wasn't that long ago, a few years now, that there is really no such thing as an official score anymore.
Yeah.
Because any call can be reviewed.
Right.
And it can be requested by anybody. The player's agent, a coach on the team, a newspaper writer, anybody can call up the commissioner's office or send in an email to the commissioner's office and say, you know, please review the error given to so-and-so on May 5th in such and such ball game. And there's a 3-person committee that will review the plays once a week.
Wow.
And so if you can change anything, what makes it official?
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
There is none.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to be an unofficial scorer.
Yeah.
A temporary scorer. That's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
So it was a good time, and I missed too much time with my kids growing up. So it worked out. It worked out perfect. And that was about the one little lull there when the Braves kind of slid back a little bit there, 2008, right in that area for a handful of years.
Yeah.
But that's how you get in, and that's how you hang around.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, you really did have the perfect timing there, both getting in and getting out. You couldn't have asked for better than that. So
yes, because I was there for I guess 86, 7, 8, 9, 0. So 5 years. I was there for 5 years when they were horrible.
Yeah.
So that made you appreciate horrible baseball.
Yep.
That's
when my fandom began was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. So it made you appreciate even more the next 17 years.
Absolutely.
That they were fantastic. And the thing that made it so fantastic was the pitching staff, you know, in 2 hour and 45-minute average games.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, man, you always wanted to do the Maddox game because hell, you'd be home for dinner because it's a 2 hour and 5-minute game.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, for sure. So, Mark, can you still be a fan of the team and do that job? Like, can you stay impartial?
Well, I was. Absolutely, I was.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that's one of the tricks. That is one of the tricks is you better not be a homer.
Yeah.
And I was actually probably questioned more by Braves players than opponents.
Right.
You know, I'd get I'd get the old, well, that's not a hit in New York, or that's a hit in Los Angeles, that's a hit in St. Louis. And I'm like, well, you know, this is Atlanta.
Yeah.
But they would think I was, yeah, I mean, there was a handful of players. A funny story. One of them is Bob Horner.
Mm-hmm.
Some players are more outspoken than others
Yeah.
when it comes to questioning your abilities. And that's it's one of the first things that you really have to deep down inside accept is this team that I have idolized my whole life
Yeah.
hates me.
Right.
Not personal. They
Yeah.
hate the score, and I'm the scorer, so they
Sure.
at post back those they hate me, and you just gotta accept that. But that can be hard.
Absolutely, I can see. So they expected a little home cooking. Is that what you're saying? They expected a little.
Yeah,
little thing for
that's
them?
a good. You said it, I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood.
But, like I said, some would argue more than others. I ain't gonna say argue, bitch, if you can say that on a podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Complain, emphasize.
Yeah.
But Horner was one of those. He wasn't bad, but
Yeah.
he'd question a lot of stuff. So his tenure there, it was, I'm not gonna say a rocky relationship, but he didn't respect my abilities as much as maybe others did.
Right. Right.
So,
was there a particular
after-
play that he got upset about, Mark? Was there one particular play that got him?
Nope.
Or,
No,
yeah, just in general.
The best way to put it, the one player that really went nutso was Ken Obergefell.
I remember Ken. Yeah.
And he referenced a article that in the Kansas City Star, their second baseman from way back, Frank White. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Played second base for the Royals back in the 70s, 80s. And he just exploded on their score. And so Obergefell, and this wasn't directed at me, but it was directed at official scoring in general, is, you're taking food off the table and this, that, and the other. And, so which is an exaggeration, but there's a basis of fact there.
Yeah.
And, they try to present it like, the score is just wrong half the time.
Right.
And I'm like, give me a break. I mean, really half the time.
Yeah.
So that irritated me to the extent, and growing up being a numbers person, I went back through my score book. This was in like June. Okay. So we're halfway through the season. And I went back to every game I had scored. So at that point, that would have been maybe 25 games. So I went back and looked at every game. How many errors did I give Braves opponents' fielders taking a hit away from Braves hitters? The answer was like 19.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just, for the sake of argument, half the calls are just obvious. A drop pop, a drop catch. I mean, let's get rid of the obvious ones. Okay, now we're down to 9. Okay, now let's cut that in half and say they're right half the time. You're wrong. Okay, now we're down to 4.
Yeah.
And so at most, giving them credit for what they're saying, the answer is 4.
Right.
Double that for a full season's 8. Really?
Yeah.
That's an average, going by your accusations, the official score is wrong for one play per player per year.
Yeah.
Now, how many times did you get a hit? You don't forget about those, or you got a hit that may have been an error.
So you took like maybe one half a meal off Ken Obergefell's plate, maybe.
I took a biscuit from his dog. I mean, that's, but,
Yeah.
but the funny thing closing up with Horner was, and after the players retire, I mean, it's the switch is flipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they did an article in the AJC, like a Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
And they did one on Horner. And my real job, I worked at Cox Enterprises, which owned WSB and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and all that. So I knew the guy who wrote the article. I reached out to him and said, would you mind reaching out to Bob? Because I still had the 4 home run game. That was my first big game I ever scored.
Yeah.
July 6th, 1986. So that was my 4th month into my career. And he hit that game. And, it'd be kind of neat to have him autograph that. And he goes, oh, if I'd send it to him in, self-addressed envelope and all that good stuff. And he got back with me about 4 or 5 days later. He goes, yeah, Bob said, he'd be glad to. And if you could make about an extra 5 or 6 copies and autograph them yourself as the official score. So I'll have something to give to family. So he went from you suck to
awesome.
Would you autograph this so I can give this to my family to have a memento? So, it's
That's awesome.
But he was a talent. He was he was just scary.
Bob went straight from the minor. Didn't he skip the minors?
Now here's, I'm going to give you another quick Bob Horner story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I showed up for work. This was before I was score. This was during my dictating box scores days.
Yeah.
And I get to the stadium about an hour and a half before, and of course nobody's there. And what you're looking at there is what he signed. I go by Fred. So that says to Fred, pretty good day. Bob Horner, 4HR 7686. So he signed it and sent it back, and all's forgiven. But so I pull into the parking lot, and the car pulls in next to me, and nice. At the time, older, because I was probably 23 and they were probably 45. And they get out and they say, "Excuse me, young man, can you tell us where the will call booth is?" I said, "Sure. That's the way I get in the stadium. This is old Atlanta Stadium, of course." And I said, "Yeah, just you can walk up with me, because the gate that you go in, I go in that same gate, and the will call booth's right next to it." So we're walking up. And so what brings you to Atlanta? Is this your first game? Well, it is here in Atlanta, yeah. I said, oh, okay, what brings you here? Well, our son's playing. Oh, well, that's got to be neat. Who would that be? Bob Horner. So I'm escorting Bob's parents up to the will call booth, and then that was the night he hit a home run off of Bert Blyleven in his first professional game. So he went from Arizona State to Atlanta Stadium, and first game hit a home run off Hall of Famer Bert Blyleven. So that was
wow.
That was
Bert
cool.
was okay. He wasn't bad.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad at all.
Yeah. No, Bob. One of my earliest memories was I actually listened to that game on the radio. For whatever reason, I was listening on the radio with my grandfather to that game, the 4 homer game, and it was so that sticks out as one of the very first, especially radio broadcast memories I have.
Yes,
of that game. So yeah,
and you can think back to Pete Van Wieren and Ernie Johnson, Skip, and
I tell people those were like my uncles. They were in our house every night. Skip and Pete and Ernie. And then Don came along, and him and Skip going back and forth with each other was classic. I mean, it was.
I'll give you a quick snippet on all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don was just so professional and so nice. And the one thing that sticks out with me, there was some call that they were giving me grief about. They were playing the Giants. And I think, and Skip liked to give me, I'll get to Skip, but he blasted me. And I forget the San Francisco announcer, the real well-known one that did ESPN for a while.
Joe Miller?
John Miller.
John Miller.
And he kind of blasted me.
Yeah.
And, maybe you don't like to get blasted on the air. And you can hear him, say something back in the lounge behind the press box. And after everybody else had cleared out and I was back there, Don came up to me and he put his arm around me and he goes, "You know what you're doing. Don't let people get to you or they won't ever stop.
That's awesome.
Just keep doing what you're doing." And I mean, it was like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
Here's a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
acting like a pitching coach if he was a pitching coach, but now he's a scoring coach. And
Right.
that just meant so much. That
Yeah, I
meant
bet.
so much.
Yeah.
And Ernie was the all-time nicest man. He
Seemed
was
like-
just, he was, buddy, he was your father figure. I mean, he
Yeah.
just was.
Yeah.
And the first call I ever made, first batter ever, they were playing Philadelphia, opening day, playing Philadelphia. And Juan Samuel was leading off for Philly.
Yeah.
And he had a routine grounder to Rafael Ramirez at short. And Rafi just kind of took his time a little bit and then double pumped and then kind of lollipopped it over, but he didn't do anything technically wrong.
Right.
And Samuel was hustling and beat it out.
Yeah.
So I gave him a hit. So my first call ever is questioned.
Yeah.
So I remember after the game, and I knew Ernie. I knew all the guys already from just being in the press box for
Sure.
7 years before being the score. And Ernie came up to me after the game. He goes, "That's got to be an E6." And that's all he said. Just no emotion, no
Yeah.
you blew it, no anything. He goes, "That's got
Gotta
to
be an
be an E6."
E6. Yeah.
But he was just such a nice fella, and I was able to reciprocate with him one time, and it meant a lot. It meant a lot to him. It meant a lot to me. He came back and did one game,
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 years after he'd retired. I think the night they renamed the radio booth the Ernie Johnson
Oh,
radio,
okay. Very cool. Yeah.
and he came back and worked that game.
Yeah.
And after everybody else had gone and he was still packing up with all of his stuff, and I went in there to him before he left. I said, Ernie, I just wanted to tell you, it's just, there's something when you're here, everything just seems right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he just, you could just tell he wasn't ready for that. I was like, that's just not your grade, or it really
Right.
it meant something to him. And
Yeah.
it did. Everything felt in place when Ernie was
Well,
there.
it's true too. Yeah. I mean,
And
it's,
he was a super nice guy. Pete was friendly as they could be. You'd think the professor and all that, he'd be real quiet, and he was the nicest fella. He could tell stories with the best of them. He was official scorer, because a lot of official scores in the minor leagues were the radio announcers.
okay.
And he was doing single A ball, and he was doing and he told me, he goes, "You'll probably enjoy this story." And he goes, "It was after a game, and I was doing the recap of the game, and over the right below the booth, there's like a metal awning, and bang, a few seconds later, bang, a few seconds later, bang." And so he eventually looks out, and it was the catcher. And he had a bag of balls, and he was firing them up there until Pete stuck his head out, and he goes, "That was a wild pitch," because he had charged him a pass ball during the game.
Yeah.
So that was pretty good. That's how they got their attention back in the minors, was firing baseballs into an aluminum shed.
Nice. There's something super romantic about minor league baseball.
Yeah, there is. That's definitely part of it. And then Skip was, he was an all-timer. He
I can't wait to hear about Skip. Skip
he
was my favorite.
actually, my wife's mother was a office manager at a doctor's office that Skip took one of his sons. It wasn't Chip, two.
Yeah.
So we had a connection a little bit there because he knew my mother-in-law. And
Nice.
then I knew Skip from, I worked for the Hawks for 10 years
Okay.
on their stat crew. So
Yeah.
I was there during Skip doing the Hawks games. So we
Yeah.
knew each other well enough, and he wouldn't mind kidding. He'd rib you. And if
Yeah.
he thought your call was wrong, he'd say it on the air. Wouldn't
Mhm.
do it vindictively. Now,
Right.
Don Simpson would sometimes.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
would go over the edge more than he should sometimes, to me.
Really.
'Cause, what money are they making off of it?
Yeah.
Why are they complaining, so vehemently about it? But,
Right.
Skip would, like, well, we love Mark to death, but God, I don't know how he called that an error. So, just things like that. But he would say it. And then tying that into one of my all-time favorite moments was I would always have a buddy with the Braves that would tell me when a guest was coming, either Hall of Famer or famous person or something, and he would tell me when they would come so I could position myself to be in the right place to meet him. And so he came over to him. He goes, Jimmy Carter's coming up here in the bottom of the third. Like, okay, thank you. So I knew just where to go, and then there's only one door they can come in. So I'm positioning myself just perfect. And sure enough, here he comes in. It's like, okay, time for me to diagonally head him off at the pass. So he's walking in. This would have been 89, 90, 91, somewhere in that range. And he goes, he still had two Secret Service guys, big guys, walking with him. And so, I got to get back out and do my job too. So I kind of, I'm hustling up to him. And the Secret Service guys kind of, bow up a little bit like, I'm incoming threat. And I, so hold out my hand, Mr. President. It's an honor to meet you, sir. And, he goes, well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And he goes, so, what do you do around here? I said, well, I'm one of the official scorers. And he paused and he goes, no, wait a minute. I know who you are. Let that one sink in.
Yeah. Yeah.
President of the United States telling you he knows who you are. And so I'm giving him this look like, okay, what's the rest of the story? And he goes, you're that fella that Skip's always given a hard time to on the air. I said,
yeah.
Me. So, if Skip didn't do all of his Skip stuff, Jimmy Carter would not have known who I was. So that was
one of a kind, man. He was one of a kind. I loved him.
He was a great fella, and he did me a real plus back in the Hawks days when I was still in college. And I, group of my fraternity brothers, they're like, you don't know him. I said, well, that ain't important. What's important is he knows me.
Yeah.
They got kind of upset. He don't know you. Yeah, he does. He goes, okay, we're coming up to a game. The Milledgeville's hour and a half drive. Okay. All right. We're going, they were going to catch me. So they were coming up to a game. So before the game, I found Skip. I said, Skip, I need a favor. He goes, I got no money. I said, that's okay. This one's free. It's just, I need a minute of your time. He goes, what's up? I said, I got 4 fraternity brothers coming up that don't think you know me from Adam. Let me know when they get here. And they got there, and this is at the old Omni. I missed that place.
Yeah.
So we're in the corner of the Omni. And I'm sitting there, and Skip comes walking up. He goes, what's up, fellas? I hear my boy Mark here's you're friends with my boy Mark here. And he puts his arm around me, and oh God, that was it.
Nice.
That was very good. He did me a solid there. That was, and they're all just slack jawed looking at me like, God, he does know him. So that was very cool. But it was fun working with those announcers too.
Yeah.
Because, and listening to them. So because when you get to that level, you kind of are included in their niche a little more than just being a press box rat.
Yeah, their circle. You're right.
You were involved. You could hear more stories.
Yeah,
that they would tell. You'd shut up and never say a word, but you would be allowed to be within earshot of their stories. And God, was there some story
I can imagine.
But they were very entertaining stories between those guys.
I can remember Skip. 2 things stand out. One, of course, his classic, telling you what the fan's name was that caught the foul ball, where they were from.
Yep.
And the other thing was giving the producer, I believe his name was Glenn Diamond.
Giving
that guy a hard time every night. Every night he was calling out Glenn Dunn.
I mean, that's and yeah, a funny side note to that, I still do some work doing statistics for the Atlanta Dream games.
Yeah, yeah.
And Glenn Diamond produces those games.
Really?
So Glenn got me that position because he knew me from the Braves.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you never know 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Something you do now is going to affect something that's going to happen, good or bad, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So it's
man.
small world in a tiny time frame.
You were living the life in the 80s, Mark. You were living the life, man.
It was, yes, getting to see. I mean, I was working the Hawks and getting to see Bird and Magic Johnson and all those guys play. And I'm courtside and
awesome.
The Braves and getting to do all that. And the Falcons, you know, that was when Steve Bartkowski came on the scene, and he was the nicest fella too. And I love hockey. And, you know, spending that decade with the Flames at the end of the 70s, and then all that did was make me really miss it even that much more in the 80s.
Right.
And then we got the Thrashers and lost them. So, but it was, for a kid.
Speaking of nice
that never dated anybody in college.
Yeah.
And all the hot shots that were dating all the hot girls.
Yeah.
All the time would, God, I'd trade places with you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So, well,
yeah.
You know, I'd probably trade off with you, you know, every now and then.
Every now and then for a couple hours, maybe. Yeah.
But not permanent. So, well, that's good. All that works out well.
Speaking of nice guys, Mark, I'd be very remiss not to ask you about Dale Murphy.
Everything you've ever heard about him is true.
Yeah. I mean, he just seems almost too good to be true as a nice guy, you know.
He was first story I have with him would have been when I was working for my college radio station. When I say I worked for my college radio station, I would get, you know, my little cassette tape recorder and get interviews, and then go back to the school and have like a weekly sports wrap up show.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I mean, it was pretty advanced for 1982. And so that's how I knew Murph to start off with. And the year that he blew out his knee as catcher, 78, 79. And there was an old shopping center over in Decatur, North DeKalb Mall. And there was a Woolworths, and across from the Woolworths was a bookstore. And I come walking out of the Woolworths, and I hear, Mark. I'm looking up, and it was Murph on crutches. What famous person initiates a conversation with a nobody? Murph does.
Yeah.
I mean, Murph does. But that sums him up. And, you know, it was just after the games, and then, you know, Atlanta Stadium, oh my God, those clubhouses were horrible.
Yeah.
Little bitty lockers, and, you know, the furniture was like 3 picnic tables. So after the game, they, you know, throw out a spread on the picnic tables, and they had a cooler over in the corner, one of the clear glass tall coolers. Yeah. And the first top row was Bud Light, the second row was Budweiser, and the third row was Coke, and the fourth row was Diet Coke, and at the bottom was 3-gallon jugs of milk.
Yeah.
So after the game, Murph would be at his spot at the picnic table with the gallon of milk. No glass, no chugging it right out of because that was his milk. Nobody missed his milk.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, that's as pure as it gets. That's who he was.
Yeah.
And a follow-up to him, and this is emotional. A good friend of mine had 2 younger brothers, and their father had given them Dale Murphy rookie cards. This is back 83 or 4. And their father passed away, and they put his card in his casket.
Yeah.
And it was like, God, that's, wow, that's powerful stuff. And then I combined with a buddy. I got tickets for my buddy and his two brothers to come to a game. And then a friend of mine tipped Murphy off. Could you come say hey? So I escorted the three guys down underneath in the tunnel underneath, and Murph came out, and I mean, he spent 20 minutes,
Wow.
undivided attention, talking to those three guys.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I mean, it just, you could just tell how unbelievably proud they were. They were getting to meet Dale Murphy. And then, so now the game starts. Bottom of the first, home run. Next time up, base hit. Next time up, base hit. Next time up, home run.
Wow.
I mean, it was the Babe Ruth hitting 2 homers for the kid in the hospital
Yeah.
all over again. Murph just goes 4 for 5 with 2 home runs. And it's just like, and I'm looking over the edge of the press box because the comp seats were right below us, right behind home plate. And I'm looking down at my buddy, and he's just looking up at me, and it's just, this is unreal. This is indescribable. But everything about Murph is 100% true.
That's good to know. Yeah.
If anybody ever deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, if you're going to keep anybody, even one person, out with any question because of their character, then by golly, you should appreciate it on the other end.
I agree.
That should be the ultimate tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And there's never been a better ambassador, maybe with the exclusion of Lou Gehrig.
Yeah. That's pretty good company to put him in. Yeah.
Murph was Lou Gehrig of this era.
Yeah.
He deserves to be in.
There's nothing I want to do more soon than go and do the Murphy MVP experience and meet him and talk.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
That's
on my list.
And I would see him every now and then up in the press box. I hadn't been in the press box in the new stadium, but in Turner Field, he'd come up every now and then.
Yeah.
And he just, hey Mark, how you doing, man? He had written a book. I forget the name of the book, but he had written a book. It was basically for troubled teens that coping.
Yeah.
Athletes, high school type athletes that were trying to cope.
Yeah.
And just, he a very philosophical, ethical writing in his book.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, I've got to get a copy of that for my nephew because he's going through a patch right now. He's in a little bit of a rebellious thing, and the next time he came to the ballpark a few weeks later, he had a book.
Nice.
And he autographed the book. He goes, what's your nephew's name? I said,
Wow.
Christopher, to Christopher. Hang in there, buddy. Best always, Bob Horner. Or Bob Horner. Del Murphy. And, it's like, here, give this to him. Who does that?
Yeah.
Murph does that.
Yeah, just Murph. That's awesome.
Just Murph.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, Mark, because I did a little research and I remembered this game. Tell me a little bit about the combined no-hitter.
1991.
Yeah, and Terry Pendleton had to play.
September 11th.
1991. Yeah.
9/11. The 9/11.
9/11. Yeah. Tell me about, scoring that play and how that came about.
That was a night. There was nothing to it until 2 out in the ninth.
Yeah.
And then Darren Jackson for San Diego hit a chopper to Pendleton. And again, this is where I enforce the rule, ordinary effort. Okay?
Yeah.
Pendleton's ordinary effort on this exact play, he would round to it and short hop it off his glove side. That was his move. I mean, it looked like, God, that was a great play.
Yeah,
no,
I remember that, yeah.
That was his routine play. That's how he preferred to handle grounders, to round up on it so he can have momentum going to first.
Yeah.
and he just pulled his glove up too quick. And the ball, and so he never touched it, which is another misnomer in scoring is, well, it didn't touch their glove. Show me where that is in the book. And then I'll be looking at it for the first time because it ain't there. So, that's so yeah, I caught some heat for that. It was controversial to call that a E5. Okay, I'll accept that. What would it have been if I'd have called it a hit? Controversial.
And would have broken up the no-hitter.
So, yeah, I mean, it's one or the other. It's going to be a controversial call no matter what. So,
either way,
okay, well, yeah. Was it a home cooking? No, not in the least. Is there a fraction of a percentage point that it was a no-hitter? Yeah, I'll go that far. I will go that far. Another unwritten rule that you always say.
TP had the home run in that game.
I'm sorry, Pendleton had 1-0 game.
TP had the home run in that game that won. Yeah, yes. He had the home run.
That was 91. I mean, that was their worst the first year, and they were neck and neck with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And, that was in them. And there wasn't but like 12,000 people in the ballpark. But if you went around town asking people, you'd swear there was 75,000.
They were all there.
Of course.
But, so, okay. Well, that was interesting. So I get, I do my stuff and I'm heading down, to go home. And I just happened to be going down about the same time all the newspaper writers were going down. And so we get off the elevator and I, start to hang a left to go home. And there, the locker room's to the right. And as soon as I started to hook left, they're going, whoa, where are you going? So that was my first formal interview was, and I said, it's I didn't, you didn't look at a replay. I said, I didn't need a replay. Yeah. Because I saw how Pendleton approached the ball. He approached it the way he normally does and just didn't get it. After the game, Pendleton said he lost it in the lights. So
fair enough. Yeah.
Does that, routine effort, okay, as a major leaguer, learning how to shade light, use sunglasses, I lost it in the sun type excuses. Well, that sounds pretty routine to me.
Yeah, he was at his home ballpark too, so it couldn't have been that foreign.
So the angles.
Yeah.
And if he'd have just gotten out of the way, if he'd have never even attempted it, Rafael Billiard was standing right behind him, and he could have thrown him out. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
But that started a pretty wild 24 hours. That was I was on Channel 2 and Channel 5 the next day.
Can you imagine now, Mark, if you had social media, how that would have been just all over the place?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's but again, if it was happening today, you'd have the commissioner's office either approving your call or disproving your call.
Right, that's true.
That would be a tough one on their part too.
Yeah,
because there's both ways. And, so some people, like Skip said, that's error. And, Pete Van Warren, no, it's a hit. So,
yeah.
The two announcers have different. They interviewed the coach. I forget his name now.
Yeah.
God bless him. But he said, my ballpark, my pitcher, this is not why I called it the way I called it, but he goes, my pitcher, my ballpark, you damn right, that's an E5. Okay, thank you. But you're not going, but how many people I've talked to actually over the years that's like, I remember that game, man, that was great, blah, 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 blah. How many of those people would remember it if I call that a hit? Not as many, I don't think.
No.
So, there's pluses and minuses that are all after the fact. I mean, you make the call, you make the call. I made the call because I thought he should have had it. People that tell me I blew the call, I respect your opinion. You know, yeah, he might have beat it out anyway, but you know, we both have an opinion. One of our opinions count. And that'd be me. So, you know, that's part of it. And that goes back to you better have a thick skin and you better be able to back up whatever you call, or you don't want to be in that position. So, you know, some days are better than others. Some days you're going to tick off people, and other days you're going to have people tell you you're the greatest. But, you know, at the end of the day, what I tried to always enforce was have a reason for the call, be available to discuss the call, and be available to listen to someone that disagrees that may carry enough weight to make you change call. Because we had 24 hours to change calls.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, some guys like Merv Redmond, when he was the hitting coach, that guy would call up every other game complaining about something. I mean, the ultimate cry wolf, just every other game. I mean, it got old. And then one or two hitting coaches later was Bob Watson. In 4 years, he called me 3 times. Or maybe the other way around. 3 years, he called me 4 times. I changed 3 of the 4. Because the first time it was he convinced me. The second time he convinced me. The third time he couldn't. And the fourth time, I didn't even look again. There was that much respect. If you think that should have been a hit, and you only call when you that was my tip of the cap to him, was I respect your opinion enough. I remember that because it was his last year. It was his last year. And I already knew it. I was just kind of like my tip of the cap to him was, I'll do it. No problem.
Yeah.
Because you know, that's so that, you know, he was the good guy. He was the good guy. It's, you know, you have the different ones that cry wolf and others that don't. And, you know, he was one of the good guys. Bobby Cox. Never heard
that
from
was my
Bobby.
next question was Bobby Cox. That was my next
Never
question.
heard from him.
Yeah.
Never heard from him.
I'm not surprised. I'm not really surprised.
He probably paid me one of the biggest compliments I ever got, not meaning for it to be a compliment. So after the 2007 season, you know, the commissioner's office would, you know, write you a letter or something, you know, whether or not you're coming back. You're an independent contractor, which is illegal as all get out. And nowadays they are employees.
Yeah.
But, you know, really independent contractor, you don't tell me where to be, when to be, what to do, who to answer to, all those things that don't make you an independent contractor. So, you know, they hid behind that as to why they couldn't tell me why I was not asked back. I kind of knew. I ticked off the dude from Toronto. I just, you know, and he just happened to be best buddies with the lady that used to be the American League that's now over the official scores.
Yeah,
so,
gotcha.
Get that guy. When you get a chance, get that guy. Because I really ticked him off.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother deal. They had a fella named Shea Hillenbrand.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays. And apparently he was like a pariah. He was hated from the top of that organization down.
Wow.
And you know, it was obvious he was at the end of that year, he was long gone. And he was normally either first base or outfield. And they put him at third. Like the second time in his career.
Yeah.
And somebody hit a ground ball to him. and he came in a couple of steps. There was a runner on first, and he got the ball, and he looked a second, and kind of pumped, and it's like, okay, I can't get him there, and then he throws it to first, and the runner they beat it out, and I'm calling okay, fielder's choice. It's not a hit because it should have been an out, but it's not an error because it was mental, and it in the rule book it said you cannot charge an error on a mental decision or mistake. That's what he did. He just looked to the wrong base because he was not his normal at third base is not Chipper Jones's normal.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Well, one of the most beloved pitchers of all time for Toronto. You want to guess?
I know the answer.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Jimmy
Key.
Key.
One
of the most beloved guys. Okay, he was pitcher.
Yeah.
So that being a fielder's choice instead of an error, he gave up like 3 runs that inning. So this guy, and the visiting PR people travel with the team.
Yeah.
And part of their job is to fight for their players with the official score. If they think, they can try to get them to change it or look at that again, or, that kind of stuff. But I mean, he just went ballistic. I mean, absolutely blew a gasket. And I'm like, and he goes, well, look at it again. I said, what do I have to look at? I know what he did.
Yeah.
He looked to second, and then he looked to first, and then he threw to first late. Where did he physically mess up? There's no answer for that. Okay, well, where's the error? I said, I'm not going to give the guy a hit because he doesn't deserve a hit, but using the rules in the rule book, that's a fielder's choice. He chose to look to second first as a mental mistake. He should have just thrown the ball to front. But again, I didn't write the rule book. I am, I'm the policeman. I'm not the Congress.
Right.
You can't give an error. And, he was just so when I found out, I was trying to piece together. I kept talking to people, trying to figure out what went wrong because I thought I was pretty generally regarded as a good scorer. So how did this happen? And somebody says, well, do you know who that guy in Toronto is? No, he's in bed with the lady up in the commissioner. So, okay, that makes sense. So I got politicked out, and then she got fired. Somebody called me up 2 years later. Said, man, I'm going to make your day. Somebody from the Braves.
Yeah.
No. Colleague goes, I'm fixing to make your day. I said, make it. He goes, guess who just got fired? And he told me the lady's name. I thought, oh, yes. Yeah. That was justice because, she did me wrong.
Yeah.
So, that's part of the game. That's part of life. You live with it and you roll on, but, you better have conviction in what you're doing or, what does it mean at the end of the day? If you can't look yourself in the mirror, what does it mean? And I can look myself in the mirror.
Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit before we started recording, Mark. You still keep up with the Braves? You still watch them play?
I still very much watch them. I'm very, very much a fan. I'm not as much as I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm more now than I was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
That left a bad taste, even though it wasn't the Braves' fault.
Right. Right.
They didn't fire me.
Yeah.
They could have stuck up for me maybe more. But for all I know, maybe they did.
Yeah.
But, it had already been decided. So what are you going to do? But that soured me not just on the Braves, but on baseball for maybe 10 years, which is very sad that I'd keep up, but I didn't have a rooting interest.
Right.
And then, over the years I've started getting in, nobody was a bigger fan in 21 when they won it again than I was. I mean, that was, that was special. I shed a tear. I just, same as I did shed a tear when Marquise Grissom caught that ball in left center field in 1995. I mean, that was just like, holy smokes, it was good. That was
there are so many things we can talk about, Mark. We're going to have you back again.
Well, I'm here. Whenever you have a void, you can feel free to give me a call and we'll swap some stories. And
I want to ask one more though. One more
absolutely.
player I want to know about, and we'll get you out of here on this one. Tell us about Chipper. Tell us about Chipper Jones.
Chipper was another one that was in the Bob Horner mold. He would question you, but the guys that are type A personalities, they're going to see you accept it. Accept it.
Right.
He would, but it'd be funny because sometimes I'd always listen to my compadres in the press box, mostly the radio media, as opposed to the ones that get the interviews and stuff, not the broadcasters, to come back to me and tell me, what was going on. And it's like, some pitcher was complaining that Chipper should have made a play. And Chipper was like, you can imagine the R-rated version of what he said.
Right.
And it's like when they think their teammates full of crap, they'll say that one too. So he would stand up for what he believed, and that was totally cool. And the neat thing about him was I was able to get a hot pass at a Talladega race back a few years ago, and he was the grand marshal. This is after he'd retired, and I took the opportunity to track him down. And as I'm walking up to him, he gives me a look. He goes, "What are you doing here, you old dog?" I said, "Oh, I'm just here to harass you some more." And he just, he laughed. I said, "No hard feelings." He goes, "Oh, brother, ain't nothing. That's all good." So, it's they're looking after their own best interests.
Of course, yeah.
Which I'm not gonna knock him for. I mean, he never called me during a game.
Yeah.
Now, I can't say the same thing for Mike Schmidt or
really. Wow.
Oh God, there was a laundry list of people. They would call. I mean, this is more back in the day. This is back in the late 70s or late 80s, early 90s. They would call during the game, like fifth inning. They'd head to the clubhouse. Give me the press box. Give me the official score. And so what are you going to do? The nicest guy was Fernando Vina.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was with St. Louis, and there was a play after a game, and I gave him an error on a ball he had flipped to Edgar Renteria that looked like from behind home plate that he threw it behind him. So E4 on the toss. And he goes, but he took the time. He asked the guy who picked up the phone, he goes, "What's the official scorer's name?" "Mark." "Thank you. Can I talk to Mark?" And he, "Mark, Fernando Vina. I wonder if I could have a minute of your time." Nobody does that. Players never figured out the more flies with honey than vinegar rule.
Sure. Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
Fernando Vina. That's it.
Yeah.
And he goes, from the angle you have right behind home plate, you may not have been able to see the angle to see that, the throw was actually there and Eddie should have had it. And you can talk to him and he'll bet, because he apologized to me after the game for missing that ball. And so he's nice. He's explaining the play. He gives me a valid reason to change it.
Yeah.
And he's just professional.
That's awesome.
I'm like, how quick can I change this?
Yeah.
I mean, he checked every box and then some. So
are you saying Mike Schmidt wasn't super friendly when he did it?
I think he's always been known as being a little surly.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the most outgoing appearance, but no, this was also 86, and he had a bullet up the middle off of Doyle Alexander's foot. And the ball rolled straight over to first base. Ted Simmons is playing first.
Yeah.
And he reaches down to pick it up, and Schmidt barely left the batter's box. Yeah. And the ball rolled into Simmons' glove and rolls right back out.
Uh-oh.
And Schmidt's finally running, and he beats it out.
Yeah.
It's an E3.
Yeah.
Really? What else can that be?
Yeah.
bring. Well, how can that be a hit? How can that be an error? He's not expecting the ball coming to him at first base. The ball's going up the middle. And then, I'm being nice and polite and everything. So I said, well, that's a good point. But the way the rule book reads, you have to judge every part of the play on its own merit.
Yep.
Okay. So that's why, shortstop makes an unbelievable play to get to a ball and then throws it in the house. It's an E6. That's a tough E6 because 90% of the shortstops don't even get to the ball.
Yeah.
So if he just lets it go, hey, the rule book's the rule book. So, I'm like, well, that's true. But after the ball kicked over to Simmons, he had plenty of time. You were still 5 or 6 steps away.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say you hadn't left the batter's box yet.
Right.
Yeah. You were still a good 5 or 6 steps away, and he had plenty of time to make that play.
Yeah.
So, and we'll leave it at this.
I got you.
The last thing. So later, like I said, I collect autographs. Hall of Fame autograph. So he's there in the Phillies broadcast a few years later, and he's walking through the clubhouse or press box back in the lounge area. I wouldn't bother anybody unless it was totally, innocent time or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to. And so he was there with his son, and his son had a friend with him. And I said, Mr. Schmidt. It was always Mr. Didn't matter how much older I may be than them. It didn't matter. That was respect.
Yeah.
I was giving them was Mr. And I said, Mr. Schmidt, could I please bother you for an autograph? I'd greatly appreciate it. And he, so he gets a ball and everything. And I said, this is really the first time we've talked. And he kind of pauses for a second. And I said, yeah, there was a call back in 1986. And, and he goes, did you change the call? I go, no, I'm afraid I didn't. Yeah. And his son just busts out laughing. I mean, he is going to hysterics.
Yeah.
And then his son's buddy starts cracking up. And you can tell Schmidt doing his best not to laugh.
Yeah, yeah.
And then his son goes, so you're the one. The only guy that's ever told my dad no.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that was pretty cool. So but
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's all part of the game. And if you don't enjoy doing it and you don't, if you, like I said, if you can look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day, which I could, then I know I did my best and I know I did better than most people could. Yeah. Which that's, if you're in that position, you better be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Better than 99% of the people could.
I'm just trying to picture. I'm trying to picture getting a phone call from Mike Schmidt right now. Like
it's well, especially when you're 26.
Yeah.
And very impressionable, and you're talking to a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're trying to sound intelligent.
Yeah.
That can be a toughie.
I'll bet.
Jeff Vancouver was a very cool guy.
Yeah, I like Jeff.
He'd call every now and then, but he would do it. He'd wait until after the game. Yeah. And he'd be friendly. And there was a game I gave him 2 errors. And he called me up. And I actually, at the house I just moved from last year, I was there for 29 years. It was like a mile from his house.
Wow.
And he called me up. He goes, Mark, about those errors. He said, I'm glad you used plural. Go ahead. He goes, that first one, I butchered that thing. That was horrible. And I said, but he goes, that second one, I'm coming up on that tarp pretty quick. And, those things hit hard. I said, didn't you used to play football? He laughs. He goes, yeah, but, And, so he's laughing. I said, so you're asking me to change a call. Is that why you're calling? And he's laughing at this point. And he goes, yeah, that was a bad error, Mark. Well, you're a nice guy. So that's why I took the second error away from him. But, again, if people would just learn, approach people you're wanting to, this is in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
If you reach out to somebody and you want something,
be nice.
You can either say, hey, or, hey, buddy, how you doing, man? Let me ask you a question. Which one's going to work?
Yeah.
And professional athletes as a whole, they never heard that lesson in school.
Right.
You know, I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
Most of my customers at work, they haven't heard that thing
Yeah,
either.
most
I mean,
people
it's
I
an
know.
They'll
automatic.
come at me. Yeah,
You know,
they'll come at
treat
me. I'm
others
like,
as you would treat, golden rule.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
who hadn't heard the golden rule? They haven't. I can tell you who hadn't. Professional baseball players that make it to the
Lost
big
art.
leagues.
Yeah. Treat people like Jeff Francoeur and not like Ken Oberfeld, right? Is that what we're getting at?
No. Well, although Obi wasn't, he wasn't bad. He just came out with that.
Yeah.
He was interviewed in the paper,
Yeah.
and he was the one that had the quote.
Yeah.
There's taking food off the table, and
Right.
it's just But then
Well,
to
guys-
exaggerate to the extent, half
Yeah.
the time they're wrong.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Well,
Maybe 1 in 10, which
Yeah.
equates to less than a hit per player on the team.
right.
Really? I'm your problem?
Yeah.
Learn to hit the curveball a little better. That's the problem,
There you
So
go. That's right. That's right.
what are you going to do?
Well,
But it was great. It was fun, and I wouldn't trade those 22 years for nothing.
Yeah.
But again, I'm glad the last 20 years I didn't have no part of it because
Yeah.
it's not the same as it was.
it is very different for sure. Yeah.
It's and it's going to change. I mean, we went through a thing for a while there. They wanted to have a fifth umpire.
Yeah.
And have the fifth umpire be a scorer,
Yeah.
but that was going to cost too much money, so they scrubbed that.
Right.
They
Right.
scrubbed that plan, or we'd have been official scores would have been out of business. And when we started all this, $55 a game
Wow.
for all that aggravation. 55
Wow.
bucks a game.
no
I
way.
think when I left, it was 150.
I think
But,
I'd have done it
know,
for 50 a game. I'm just saying,
it's,
I would have done it
well,
just to get in,
yeah.
just to get in the
yeah,
ballpark.
yeah. I mean, there was a lot more than just the pay, but getting to do the 95 World Series and
Yeah.
the 2000 All-Star game. And,
Yeah. We need to have you back.
and
and
all
just
the-
talk about-
the perfect
1991,
game, the
1995.
4-homer game, the combined no-hitter game.
Yeah.
Lord, I was blessed. I got lucky. I scored maybe 60% of the games during those years,
Yeah.
and I got 99% of the good games.
That's
I
awesome.
did the 91 World Series because they asked me, so you want to do the sure thing
Yeah.
or you want to shoot for the World Series? I'll go for the World Series.
Yeah. Good
Okay,
call.
that worked. The next year, I said, I wasn't going to command to do it, just because I was the lead scorer. Like I know some would. No, let the other fellow do that. I'll do the LCS. Well, that was when Sid slid. So, I got to do that one. And then
Really
the
did choose
95 World
wisely.
Series. So yeah, it worked out. It worked out very well. Lots of memories.
We need to have you back and just talk about 91 and 95. Honestly, we could probably go on for the whole hour on those 2 years. I'm sure.
I'm here and ready whenever y'all
Awesome.
have an ear to bend.
Well, Mark, thank you again. We'll end it right here for now, but yeah, we'll definitely have you back and do some more. Can't thank you enough for taking the time. Great stuff, man. Great stories, great reminiscing
Thank
here,
you.
and good news,
Michael,
guys.
Jason, my pleasure. Thanks. You got my number.
Yeah.
Anytime I can help you out, you let me know.
For sure.
Okay.
And good news, guys. The Phillies are losing and the Mets already lost again. So it's a
Yay.
good night.
There you
night
go.
for the
Good night.
Broncos. All
Y'all
right.
take care.
Have a great one, Mark. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. So really good stuff from Mark Fredrickson. Can't thank him enough for coming on, Mike. That was 2 nights in a row of being able to reminisce about the 80s, the 90s, and just growing up as a Braves fan. Just good stuff, man, all around.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. I mean, he's got plenty of stories. So looking forward. We'll have him back and talk about 1991 and 1995 for sure. Yeah, and as we record this is a separate episode. We'll release this as a separate episode on its own. But the Braves lost tonight as we record this. It's on Tuesday, the 21st, and so did the Mets, and the Phillies are headed that direction. So 12 in a row for the Mets. We'll get to that on the next episode, huh?
Yeah, we'll cover that one.
Awesome stuff. All right, Mike, thanks for getting that set up with Mark. Appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you again soon, buddy. We'll get this episode out. And yeah, in the meantime, go Braves. We'll see you at the ballpark.